everyone, and welcome to our very first live stream for Carnivore Lung Journey. I want to wish everyone, first of all, if you are a caregiver, happy National Caregivers Day. How amazing is this? You know, we wanted to do this interview and did not really plan on this particular day to do it. It just kind of turned out that day or turned out this way. Now, listen, if you happen to be on and watching, please let me know. Put a comment in the live stream if you can, and let us know if you're able to hear us, see us. Just kind of give us some feedback because, as I said, this is our because this is our very first time doing this. We're really excited, a little bit nervous, but still really very excited to go over a little bit of what has happened in our past, probably since 2020. So almost 4 years now, 3.5 years, I guess would just about do it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to interview a caregiver, and I couldn't think of anyone better than my beautiful wife, who has had to make this, oh, how would you call it? A very hard transition from just being a wonderful, caring wife to now having to be a full-time caregiver for myself with pulmonary fibrosis. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. I have some questions that I do want to ask, and we will go over that here. First question I want to pose to my wife as my caregiver is, when was your husband, me, diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, and how were you informed of his diagnosis?
Okay. Um, the month was August of 2020, and I think the first time I was told was over the phone, but without any type of explanation or details, just that basically you were gonna die. In short, that's the gist of it.
Yeah. That was really I can't imagine how it was for you, because for me, I was struggling to breathe, and to be quite honest, I wasn't very coherent. I didn't have a lot of awareness of what was really being said. So for me, I didn't know. I didn't really understand what was going on. So really, that full burden was placed on you to hear that.
Right. And I was not allowed to be at the hospital because it was the whole COVID lockdown. And
Right.
so I was counting every day on the doctor calling me. And normally it would be late at night when the
Right.
doctor would call me and give me an update on
Right.
how you were.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to focus, as I said, on the caregiver, their contribution, their sacrifice that they make for us patients. But I want to give just a very quick, short history of myself. July 2020, I went into the hospital, uh, unable to breathe. Matter of fact, our youngest son had to drive us right
Yeah.
to the hospital, where I was admitted into ICU, and you didn't even get to say goodbye to me.
No. I
No.
couldn't even go into the hospital. We were able to he was able to get you into the wheelchair,
Right.
roll you in through the sliding doors to the little check-in area, and then he had to leave, and we just had to leave you.
Yeah, and that was it. And I know that for a lot of people, that was the last time you got to see that loved one.
Right.
And as I said, I was struggling to breathe, so I didn't know really what was going on. I was really a little incoherent. But as the days went on, I started to realize, wow, I didn't get to say goodbye to my wife, my family, whatever. Uh, so without going too far into that, I want to proceed to the next question here. So, how did it impact both of you emotionally? I already told you my part. I didn't know what was going on, the a lack of oxygen. So, really, this is really geared or toward you.
It was scary.
Yeah.
It was scary at the time. Everything that I was seeing was that people were having to do the same thing, drop their loved ones off at the hospital and then never see them again. And it was scary, and it was a battle, a constant mind battle. Um, it was a waiting game every day, waiting to hear, how you were doing. Of course, everybody was doing their best, I'm sure, in the hospitals, but it was really hard, and it was just waiting, reading, trying to find out if there were other people in the same situation, which there were so many people in
Yes.
that same situation. But I was still recovering from COVID. So
Yes.
my mind and my thoughts, it was very hard to stay focused on
Right.
things. So I would write things down, hoping that that would help me. And then when I went back to read those notes, it's kind of scattered and everywhere and goofy. But
Yeah.
and that would get better each day. But it was hard. It was scary.
Right.
I prayed a lot.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So let's move on here. Next question. So we understood that what was happening a little bit, went into the hospital with COVID, and it eventually went from double lung pneumonia to idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And through this whole time that I'm in there,
Yeah.
you had to communicate. It was you communicating. Now I know that the doctors would come in. Actually, they wouldn't even come in and talk to me in the isolated room I was in. They would send this, and I'm not joking. They would send a robot, a rolling robot that had a screen at the top of it with the doctor's face.
Yeah.
And the doctor I spoke to was in another city. It was
Yeah.
all done,
At
through.
first.
Yes, initially, yes, it was. And I don't know why they spoke to me. I mean, I didn't know what was going on. And so really, again, you took that burden, that thing of having to talk to the doctors on my behalf and just completely take over. So when you had your communication with them, your conversation, question 3, did you feel like you were well informed about my medical condition and the treatment plan?
Absolutely not. Not in the beginning. Um, at one point, after the call that told me that, all we can do is pray that he makes it through the night. And I didn't really understand. And I was talking to a different doctor every day. And, not every day, they were on a rotation, but I wasn't talking to the same doctor every day. So that's hard. But then all of a sudden, the next day, they said I needed to come to the hospital. They were going to let me see you. And I knew why. And so I did. I went to the hospital and wore all of the astronaut gear and went in, and it was hot in there. But anyway, then the doctor came in and said that you had pulmonary fibrosis. And what's funny is I remember that the pulmonologist was right outside the room,
Mhm.
but he wouldn't come in. And so, I mean, it was a scary time, so I get it. But I was going in that room, and I went in that room, and she did come in, and she told me, and
Yeah,
you probably don't
I
remember
don't,
this, but
not much.
she told us that that you had pulmonary fibrosis and that it was terminal. And, in that moment, you've got all these questions, but to form a sentence and ask a good question, it takes time. You need to like process that. And so I think we did ask some questions, or I asked some questions at that moment. And of course she was trying to be patient, but I know she had to get to the other patients. But anyway, I didn't have a clue. And so when she left, I knew you didn't understand. And I tried to say what was going on without just falling apart and losing faith. I didn't want to lose faith. And so I think that was what was on my mind the most in that moment, and has been probably since that day. How do I respond? How do I react? I want to stay real, but at the same time, I'm an encourager, and I need to encourage you, and I need to be careful with the things that I say, because I want to speak life and I want to speak hope into you. You know what I mean? We need to face facts and we need truth.
Yes.
But let's keep our eyes on the Lord, and let's have faith. Anyway, I ran out of there that day, and I remember talking to Pastor Scott on text, the pastor of our church, Hill Country Fellowship, in the parking lot, and he asked me if he could come and needed to come up there, and I decided no, I wasn't going to sit, because I was afraid that was the last night I was going to see you, and I ended up going home and just leaning on my family, my parents and my oldest son and my youngest daughter, and we just prayed. And anyway, from there began my let's find out what this really is, and let's figure out who we're going to ask questions. And yeah, so anyway, that's a long answer, but no, I did not feel well informed at all. Not at all.
Right.
It made me even more scared.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, what the heck is pulmonary fibrosis?
Right.
What is that? And even now, as we talk about it, it weighs heavy.
It does.
It does. It does. And we both have what is it when that feeling that it keeps coming back to you? It's
PTSD.
There it is. We do. We have dreams about it, and they're nightmares.
Yeah.
And moments like that come back, and you get such a nauseating feeling in your stomach, and you forget that, hey, wait, that was years ago.
Right.
God has already given you victory over that. That is past. And I want to encourage everyone. I'm kind of going off here a little bit, but I want to encourage everyone. Prayer is so strong. It's the strongest medicine you can ever administer, not just to the person you're caring for, but especially to yourself.
Right.
All right. So I want to change just a little bit of where we found out about the pulmonary fibrosis. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go where we're making this transition from wife to caregiver.
Yeah.
We've always had a very, very strong relationship. Praise the Lord. My wife is my queen. She is my queen wife. And I am the king. Okay. I put it this way. I am the head of the family, and my wife is the neck, and she tells the head where to turn. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Come on. So yes, what a transition before this all took place. I mean, we had date night.
We did.
And we had all these things that we did, going to the kids' sports events, going to their band events, any school events. We, very a lot of service in the church, and so we stayed pretty active. We we were in the middle of building our own home, and when I say that, I don't mean we contracted it out. I mean that we put hammer in hand and built our home stick by stick,
Yeah.
with a lot of help from parents and well, parents. But we had a set future that we saw uh, in mind,
Yeah.
and then this took place, and so all of a sudden, sweetheart, you had to go from just being wife, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. Wife is an incredible uh, position in the house, but I mean, from wife, you had to make this transition to now the husband that you could lean on was somebody you had to care for. You saw me go from what was it, 204 or 5 pounds down to 140,
Yeah.
140 pounds week and everything. So let's move on to these questions about this subject here. Again, making the transition from wife to caregiver.
Hmm.
As a caregiver, what were the primary responsibilities you have in supporting my day-to-day life with pulmonary fibrosis?
In the beginning, when you first came home from the hospital, or when you were about to come home from the hospital, um, with think you had maybe 30% lung capacity
I think
then.
so.
Um, so there was I think God knew that I needed to have muscles. That's why we were building the house, because I was having to lift you and move you, and it was, help you shower,
Yeah.
and it was just physical. There was a lot of physical responsibility there. Um, as far as just day-to-day stuff, immediately there was a ton of medications.
Oh yes.
I was fearful, again, fear. Um, and I remember telling my sister-in-law this. I'm afraid for him to come home from the hospital. I want him to come home, but I'm afraid because I have no training in how to care for him. I don't know, you know, how to give medicines correctly, how to help him when he can't breathe. Just anyway, but I read. I read a lot.
Yes.
I do. And I go to people who know, who have experienced things. It was hard for me to find anyone immediately, but I think that's part of my responsibility, is knowing,
Right.
educating myself.
Right.
And so I had to educate myself. I had Grampy come, which it was his idea, not mine, but he came, and that's your dad.
My dad.
Did you know that?
Yes.
Anyway, I had him. He came out, and he and your mom built a ramp,
Yeah.
going into the house, which
Because I was in a wheelchair, right? Yes.
for the most part at the beginning you were in a wheelchair, and then the oxygen tanks, were the huge oxygen tanks, because you couldn't do portable because it didn't give enough flow. Yeah, there was a lot of physical stuff, and then preparations, getting all the plants out of the house, which now the pulmonologist says was not necessary. But at the time, that's what I was told to do. So that's what I did. I had to get air purifiers in the house. I had to make sure there was no carpet in the house,
Right.
day-to-day stuff, making sure
Right.
you ate. You didn't want to eat
Mhm.
when you first came home. So you drank a lot of Ensure.
Yes.
And there were so many appointments. And it was just, and also we had a teenage daughter at home, and we had a daughter in college. So it was trying to still be mom. That was hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody needs you,
Right.
but you needed me just like a child would need me.
Right.
So
Right.
it was a lot. It was a lot. And psychologically, it was like a whirlwind, just like a tornado. You know, I was
Right.
up before everybody, which is still pretty much, well, no, now you're up earlier. I was up before everybody and I was going to bed way later
Way
than
late.
anybody.
Yes. And even then, I'm sure couldn't sleep very well because you're wondering if I'm gonna,
Right.
yeah, through the
Stop
night.
breathing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Listen, if I can't express enough how important a caregiver is to somebody, and that job is such a burden that they have to put on their shoulders. They do it out of love. And so if you're a patient, appreciate your caregiver, because I think even as a patient, even then I look back, I think it was much, much harder, and still much, much harder for my wife, who had to give everything and not know if it was going to be in vain, not knowing if I was going to even live the next day. Whereas for me, it was breathe and pray. That was it. And when it came to having to take care of me, yes, she had to uh, hold me up. She had to
Don't
give.
don't say what I think you're gonna say.
What was I going to say?
Nothing. Go ahead.
She had to give me a shower. She had to help me stand up off of the toilet, off of the kitchen chairs, off of the bed. Um, she had to help me walk. She did everything for me, and
Yeah.
and still does a lot, mostly because I'm lazy. But it was different then. Okay, so listen, I want to go to the next question here. Can you describe any specific challenges or adjustments that you've had to make in your daily routine due to my health condition? Wow, there are a whole bunch of those.
Yes. Let's see, challenges. I don't sleep very much because of it. So my sleep, it's getting better, but my sleep has been oh, very, very little. you know,
Yeah,
um,
interrupted. It's very interrupted, just like I
right,
did right now. I'm sorry.
right. Um, Other challenges became more of a coach, more of a come on, you can do this. Come on, you can do this. Eat, just breathe, just breathe. I wish I had $1 for every time I've said just breathe.
And still do.
Yeah. Because of anxiety and things like that. And let's see what other challenges. Oh, medication and communication with, medical professionals. And that has been a challenge. That's been a challenge.
Yeah,
In the beginning, when you couldn't get on the phone, when you were in the hospital, but they want to talk to you,
right,
uh, yeah, can't do that,
right.
and then it's just been a challenge to get things done sometimes.
Yeah,
I did have to prepare the house, and I still have to do those things. Like I wash sheets way more than I ever did. I clean house way more than I ever did,
yes,
because of the dust and
right.
just all of that. It's more.
Yeah. And I couldn't really be around you when you do that.
No,
And that's the thing
still
is
can't.
still can't. I still can't because of the chemicals, the dust, the stuff that's in the air, the overspray or whatever you call that. So it's something you have to watch out for. Go
I
ahead.
don't use chemicals.
Oh,
I use thieves.
okay.
Little plug.
Little plug. Yay. Okay. So I had something I want to add to this, and I'll come back to it because I can't remember what it was. So we're going to go to the next question.
Okay.
All right, let's see. Okay, so is that the one we just did?
Yes, you just asked
Okay,
me
so
that.
let me go down to the next question. Okay, are there any moments or experiences as a caregiver that you've been particularly challenging, that have been particularly challenging, and how did you overcome them?
Okay, so the biggest challenge has been denial, not from me, but from you. Um, yeah, you. I think that's been extremely hard because someone will not accept something until they're ready to accept it. They won't read about things or learn about things until they're ready. And so, for 3 years, I think.
Yeah, more than that, probably up until the last 4 weeks that I've really taken an interest in my
I
terminal illness.
I really think it's since the pulmonary fibrosis walk
Yes,
for the
yes,
foundation.
yes.
We did the walk, and I think that that is really where you had a turning point because you saw so many people there that were not just in the same shoes as you, but rooting for their loved ones, people who were walking for, loved ones
Yes,
that had passed or loved ones who were fighting and couldn't walk.
right,
I think that's where you started to make that turn. And but the challenge was, how did I get you? How could I get you to think about it? How could I get you to face it?
right,
Because by not facing it, you weren't taking the steps necessary to live a quality life.
right. That's right.
And I don't know how I overcame that other than making you go do that walk.
Right, right. Again, your caregiver puts so much of themselves to invest in you as a patient. And we have a tendency as patients to take them for granted. We do. We don't, for instance, for myself, I didn't want to hear about it. It was very hard for me to go from the man that I was, the security that I provided to the family, the manliness, the all the He-Man, Superman. I was the husband. I was man of the house. I was second in charge. So, but it was really hard to keep thinking of that, and that being in my head, that I'm not that person anymore. I am very, very limited to the person I was. And so there was a lot of denial that you had to make up for. You know,
Yeah.
the caregiver, you had to go and pursue the knowledge, the know-how, the talking to the doctors on my behalf, still making me take my medications, even today, still having to remind me, take your medications, take your medications. And so you increase the burden on your caregiver if you don't take steps to live and provide help, by researching, by getting support from other people who have this disease. All right, so let's move on. We're going to go into another subject that every caregiver really goes through, um, self-sacrifice. There are times when I do sit in my office, or even lay on the bed or on the couch, sitting on the couch, and I think about, what did I do today compared to what my wife had to do, not just as mom and as wife, but had to do because of me.
Mm.
And there is, where is her, where did she get time for herself? What is she doing to to do for her? And self-sacrifice, your caregivers give up so much on your behalf. If you're a patient, pay attention. Some questions here about self-sacrifice.
Okay.
How do you maintain a balance between providing care for me, your husband, and taking care of your own physical and emotional well-being? Talk about from the very beginning to about where we are now, the change.
Okay. In the beginning, I didn't have time for myself. I couldn't leave without having someone come and stay. So I remember when I decided I was going to go back to sing, I had to ask someone, I had to ask Vinny to come to church so
Yeah.
that he could sit with you, because I couldn't just leave you there so that I could sing. Or I remember your mom coming and staying, just different people would come and stay with you.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot of time for me. I think I wake up earlier now anyway, so I would use that time, to maybe write in my journal. I learned to be very honest with myself and give myself grace for feeling the way I felt.
Yes.
And it seemed like if I would just take that time and write that in the journal, and maybe I would just kind of let it go and release it a little bit. The other thing I did was I actually spent money and uh, got massage from my friend Shayna, because, hey, it's just, that to me was self-care. And at first I felt very guilty about going and leaving. It's like when you have a brand new baby and you're like, oh, I can't. Well, that's your first baby. When you have your first baby and you're like, oh, I can't leave my baby and go out, but then you have your second and your third, your fourth, and you're like, peace. Anyway, I'm just kidding. I love all my kids, but that's really true. But it was like that, and then as you got better, I just started to be able to prioritize my health,
Right.
and I had to, because I started to get sick.
Yes.
In my own different things that I was struggling with. And I started by walking, and it would always make me feel better to exercise.
Yeah.
And so I have just made a habit of that, and it really helps me, not just walking, but working out.
Yes.
It helps. It makes me feel less stress.
Yeah.
So that's another way that I think that I take care of my physical.
Yeah. So I want to add to this a little bit. At the onset of me coming home, and you having to do all this, did it ever feel, or how did, I know it had to feel like this, but how did you cope with, this is so unfair. This is so unfair that I have to give all of this time to my husband, and what little time I have left, I have to give to my children, my parents, my friends, the church. And so how did you, I guess, deal with that from the beginning, where there was, and I remember there really was no time for my wife, nothing. And that puts a huge guilt on the patient, but it's, it was life at that time. But
Right. There was nothing you could do about that. I mean, that's just where you were physically in your health.
right.
Um, uh, I I have a friend from high school, and we hadn't talked in years, and I think I was posting something on one of the Facebook groups for caregivers, or maybe one of the pulmonary fibrosis Facebook groups. And I was asking a question, and of course it was late at night, and of course that's when I would do my research. And so she said, "Can I call you?" And it turns out, and somehow in all of my drama, I had completely missed the fact that her husband had pulmonary fibrosis. He was actually in ICU. So you had already come home. He was in ICU, waiting on a lung transplant, but he was super, super sick. And I posted that, and she saw it. That's a God thing. She saw it, and then she reached out to me and immediately started pouring into me, you know, don't feel guilty. And then, we just kind of were there for each other, but I don't think I could ever be there for her as much as she was for me at that time, because she had already been through it. So she was able to understand. It was like there were things I just didn't even have to put it into words. She understood. And so then her husband ended up passing away before he was able to get his transplant. And so, there's just been all kinds of things that even still, through the entire journey she's gone through, that she shares with me. And she has just been such a great friend, but also a fantastic resource for and cheerleader for me.
Yes. Yes.
And so, yeah, I love her. And that is kind of who I've been crying to.
Yeah. We love you, Cam.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, let's move to the next question here. In what ways have you had to adapt your home environment to accommodate my needs?
Well, we sleep in twin beds now.
Yes.
I mean, they're pushed together, but they're still twin beds.
Can I just interject that, yes, we have twin beds squeezed together, but I always try to roll over and get on her side so I can hold her. So,
and I push him down in the slot in between. Anyway, that was a big change. You don't go upstairs. You can't go up the stairs. So you cannot utilize that. I have a ramp in front of my house. It's not really the look I was going for, but that's okay. Like I said, I had to get rid of all my plants, but they were going to die anyway. I was going to kill them. So, what else? Oh my goodness. The oxygen. Hearing the oxygen and how the concentrator heats the room like it's a heater.
Oh, it's perfect for the winter.
Right.
Yeah, we don't need a heater then, but
I think I've gotten used to the sound of it now, though. Yeah. But those were huge.
Yes.
Huge things.
And the big canisters of oxygen initially, we can dress them up really nice, make them look good in the living room.
And we actually have an emergency cylinder in the closet that looks like a helium balloon thing, like for if the power goes out.
Yeah, it stands about 6 feet tall, something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Anyway. So, yeah, I guess that's the biggest stuff.
Yeah. Well, you've had to deal with a chair in the shower, because I've had to.
Oh, yeah, the girls put that together for me.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in there for a while.
It was.
We still have it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, moving on here. How has your relationship with your husband evolved since his diagnosis, and how do you navigate the emotional aspects of being a caregiver? Man, this is a tough one.
I think I'm still learning how to navigate the emotional aspects. I don't know that I'll ever really know. I certainly can't tell anyone how to navigate it other than keep talking to Jesus and especially find people that, even if they don't know anything about pulmonary fibrosis, just that can hear you, that see you. I think the relationship evolved. It depends on the day, right? Because like right now you're in a really healthy spot.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
And that, yes, but there are days when you're gonna when you get tired and the fatigue is so unreal that you're just in the bed.
Yes.
Evolved. uh, I think most people out and about that don't know us probably think I'm a single woman because I've had to attend
Yeah.
so many events alone.
Yeah.
I hate that,
Yeah.
but it's just part of it, you know. Especially stuff for when there's a big group of people. A lot of times if stuff's going around, if you're not feeling that great, if it gets hot in a auditorium, or you're not going to be able
Right.
to do that. And so
Right.
if there's a lot of walking involved, normally you're not able to do that. So I don't really know how to say it's evolved. It's definitely changed, but I think that it's constantly just tomorrow may be different than today.
Right. Right. So even still, you're just having to tolerate it, really.
It's not tolerate, it's just adjust.
Adjust.
You know, you just have to be flexible and adjust. And some days I hate it, and
Right.
some days I'm just okay with it. And it depends on the adjustment, I guess. But
Right.
I'm definitely a reluctant caregiver. Definitely. But it's it's just the way it is.
Yeah. And you love me.
And that's love.
It
That's
is.
love.
Absolutely love.
Yeah. So
Mm.
I love you.
Next question. How do you maintain a sense of normalcy and joy in your relationship despite the challenges posed by my health condition?
Normalcy. Normal is a setting on the dryer,
Yes.
right? Or the washer.
Or the washer, yes.
That's all normal is.
Yes.
There is no normal. I think I just throw that word out the door immediately.
Yes.
And as far as joy goes, I laugh at you. You laugh at me.
Yeah.
I mean, we both just kind of keep it light when we can. I definitely feel like going through something like this has taught me what's important. It's taught me what's important. It's taught me not to major on minor things. I used to stress over little dumb stuff that just is a waste of time. And that's what steals your joy.
Yes.
Focus on, just trying to stay positive. And when you're not positive, just do your best to keep your mouth shut. Sorry, not a great answer, but
No,
that's
good.
the truth.
It is the truth. It is the truth. Patience. Keep your mouth shut.
No.
All right. So, yes. Hey, we're doing good on time here. We've got about 15 minutes left, sweetheart. And I want to ask a couple of more questions.
Okay.
This is, I need help. As a caregiver, you need help. You need support. You need information that you cannot get from the person you're caring for. So, questions about that.
Okay.
How was your support system, including family and friends, played a role, or how did they play a role in helping you manage the challenges of being my caregiver?
Right. Well, Cam,
Right.
one. But my family and friends, man, when you were in the hospital and even when you first got home, I didn't realize I had so many friends, that you had so many friends. I didn't realize family was so good.
Yeah.
I took that for granted. And then, man, they just really showed up whenever that happened. And I know that doesn't happen for everybody.
Right.
I know that there are people alone that have to go through things like this alone. But I'm very thankful that that was not the case for
Right.
us. I have had a great support system. I think that you have to be very specific because people do not know what kind of support you need. There are very few people that just have that gift, that are just like, oh, you need this, or you need me to go to the grocery store for you, or, you need me to come out and clean your house or pick up your kid,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Right.
I think that you just have to be very specific and communicate well with family and friends and let them know what you need. And very quickly, you're going to find out, who
Yeah.
can fill that role and who can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question here. Are there and were there any specific resources, support groups, or networks that have been particularly helpful for you as a caregiver?
Yes. I mentioned before the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation. That was a great, great resource for me. There's a lot of just good information there. I also used lung.org quite a bit, but the absolute best uh, place to go when I had questions, when I needed, just a little bit of what do you think? What's this? How come this is happening? Was on the Facebook groups, in the different Facebook groups for pulmonary fibrosis. I really, really found a lot there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Quick interjection. Thank you to everyone that does provide information, that gives us,
Right.
that gives out their experiences,
Yes.
and their expertise, and what they've learned,
Mhm.
on these Facebook
Sure.
groups, through these organizations. What a tremendous resource they are. Use them. Don't, as a caregiver or as a patient, don't sit around and wallop and guess, okay? And always don't just consult Senor Internet. Uh, Talk to some people, reach out and ask questions. People want to help.
Right.
Okay, another question here. How do you communicate with healthcare professionals to ensure the best possible care for your husband, me? Are there any tips you can share for effective communication with the or a medical team?
Yes. Best way for me to communicate other than face to face, I do write down my questions. I carry a notebook with me when we go. I know they're like, oh, great, here she comes. But I don't care because this is his health we're talking about. This is his life. This is our life that we're talking about. And so ask your questions. And if you don't understand, ask again, ask another way. Sometimes I think the best way for me to get answers is like if the doctor's in a hurry and you can feel like they're rushing you or whatever because they have other people to see, is by the my chart and going into messages and getting information that way. Plus you have it in writing, so
Right. That's a big one.
yeah, that's a big deal. um
Because you can always go back to it.
you can, and you can always reference it if you need to
Right.
late in another later conversation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes. So my wife will, call it what you want, bug them. She is persistent, and as her patient, I am grateful for that, because with my work, it really takes all of my focus. So I have to depend heavily on my wife to make up for all the other things that I should remember. So I'm really grateful that she does that for me.
And
Okay.
I don't mean that I'm ugly,
No,
right?
she's
I'm
not.
just never ugly. No, I'm not. I'm not ugly, but I am direct. And yeah,
Yeah.
give me an answer, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or say
Yeah.
you don't know.
Yes.
That's good too. Just I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. I'll find out for you. That's fine too.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask. Remember, it's your life. It's somebody's life. So be persistent.
Yeah.
As a caregiver, what advice would you give to others who may find themselves in a similar situation supporting a loved one with pulmonary fibrosis?
Be honest. Don't give up. Self-care.
Yes.
You have to, I know it sounds so cliche, but you cannot pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of you. You have to separate yourself from the situation and go and read a book or have a good cup of coffee, or, go have lunch with a friend, or just even if you just go soak in the tub, just take 30 minutes. If that's all you can get, just take it. And that's my biggest thing is
Yeah.
at first I didn't get that.
No.
And I just ran myself
Yes, you
ragged,
did.
ragged. And I can't count the people who would say, especially my mom, you need to take care of you first. How? When?
Right.
Those kind of things. But I found a way. So keep trying. Keep trying to find a way to take care of you.
All right. Final question here. Look at that. We're doing good on time here. Can you share any memorable moments or lessons that you learned from this journey as being my caregiver that fall within the family context? Just
Meaning?
memories. We've looked at hardships, we've looked at things that were tough, but what good moments did you pull from, or have you still continue to pull from having to be my caregiver?
Well, one of the memories I have is when you were in the hospital to begin with, and none of us could go and see you, and so we got you the watch and I made sure that you were able to FaceTime, because I think when you went in the hospital, you had a Samsung phone and not an iPhone. And so
Right.
we had to like switch that out because you were really, really down. And all of the kids really stepped up and FaceTimed you
They did.
and, you know, knew how important that was to you. And it was important to them too, but that's scary.
Yeah.
So I was really proud of them for doing that. And then also this last year when we went and did the walk, man, they were all like screaming. And I know that everybody was like, where'd these people come from? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, they were all hollering and cheering you on.
Yeah, they
and,
were. They were.
and so proud of you for pushing yourself,
Yes.
and I'm proud of them because they've been solid.
Yeah.
And I'm proud of them, and I don't take any credit for that. This is just who they are, and I'm very proud of them. And it's also been good to see extended family,
Yes.
become tighter knit and become family, like close family once again because of it all. It's worked out.
It has.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had really good memories with, with the holidays and
Yes.
even vacations that we've been able to take.
Mhm.
Yeah, I got to pull my oxygen along, but wow, some great memories. You have such amazing kids. We have such amazing kids. I love you, all of our kiddos, uh, and to all of our family and friends and future friends. This has been wonderful. I hope that you got something out of this. if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We are not scary people, even though we are carnivores, carnivore dieters. Uh, you know, we would like to help if you need it, or if you need somebody to talk to. All right, we are at, look at that, right on time.
Yeah, that's
Sweet,
how I do.
yeah, that's how you do. Thank you so much, sweetheart.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being my caregiver
You're welcome.
and for the sacrifices that you have made. Uh, I can't even begin to count them, you know, and I see that. I know what you have done. I know what you continue to do, not just for me, but for our family, the work that you put in. Let me tell you something. Housewife is the hardest job ever. Period. It really is.
I was thinking
Caregiver.
plumber.
Well,
Plumber
plumber's
might
pretty
be the
close.
hardest
Plumber's
job.
pretty close. Yes, yeah. And then on top of that, having to be a caregiver, I can't imagine. But thank you to all of you caregivers that sacrifice, the compromises that you make, the love that you pour out. And like my wife said, make sure that you do that self-care. Find time for yourself to get that second win and to recoup. All right.
All right.
God bless you all. Thank you so much for joining. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now
Bye.
bye. Let me figure out how to turn this off now.